Hi everyone, welcome back to Maximum Attack Rallying. It's another weekly rally video. Just a bit of a roundup this week. There's a few things I want to touch on. Also give you a bit of an update on the channel and what's happening and where things are going. And then we'll get a little bit into some kind of strange, let's say strange, there's some strange things going on in WRC terms right now that I wanted to touch on. In terms of the channel itself though, let's have a quick little update because things have been a bit quiet over the last couple of months, and that is because I was very busy. In case you hadn't realised, I've been working for DirtFish as their rallies editor. So I did that for a couple of months, and basically to cut a long story short, just decided it wasn't really for me. I think with the hours required and some other things in my life, sad to say that I've turned 40 recently, and I think I just realised that some things weren't quite aligning for me. That said, it was a fantastic experience to work with the team at DirtFish, and I hopefully will still be doing with the things with them in the future, just in a slightly different way. I just wanted to kind of prioritise some other things a little bit more. As I said, it just didn't quite align with where I see myself going, and being a bit older now, not necessarily turning 40, but being a bit older just kind of made me realise what I want, and there was just a slight misalignment in terms of direction for me. So as I said, I loved working with those guys. Obviously that was a fantastic experience, and I will hopefully be working with them again in the future, but this allows me to focus on other things a bit. One of those things is doing videos like this, which I really enjoy, so expect to see more of that in the future. And as I said last time, a step towards that's a new camera, which obviously we're using now, and I've got lots and lots of things that I want to do. More regular videos here on YouTube, more content on Instagram, and just more. And I've got some things in terms of cars, obviously my own cars, project cars, going to events, that kind of thing. So there's lots more that I want to do, and just changing things around a little bit will allow me to do that. So that is kind of where we're going, a little bit of a taster of that. Obviously there will be more on that in the coming weeks and months as things actually happen, rather than me talking about it. It's far more interesting, isn't it, if you actually see those things happening. So that's that part of it. The other thing I think we have to talk about is some of the strange things going on in WRC world right now. So let's get into that. Let's start with a positive though before we get into the slightly weird stuff, and that is Rally Poland, which I know was a week and a half ago, but I didn't get a chance to do a full review of that just with travel because I was on vacation, and vacation is more fun. But I did just want to mention Martin's Sesks and his debut in the Puma, which was brilliant, wasn't it? He deserves so much credit for that performance. I thought the way he drove the car, the way he settled into the car was really, really impressive. So that was fantastic, wasn't it? What a great job. And I think the main thing, two things that I would probably take from that. Obviously he drove that car without hybrid, which isn't necessarily a huge disadvantage on a faster rally because you don't get the boost. The benefits are over the hybrid boost at higher speeds as much as you would out of, say, slower corners that you might get on a tighter and twistier event. But even so, to drive the car without hybrid and still be on the pace in the early stages is very impressive. But I think, and obviously he will have hybrid in Latvia, so I think it's going to be very interesting to watch how he goes there. But I think the other part of it is, it raises some questions, doesn't it? His performance for me raises some questions in terms of some of the other drivers. It's like, okay, so this guy who's never driven a Rally 1 car before, apart from his pre-event test, got in the car and was that fast. But we've had much more experienced drivers. And if you look at Andreas Mikkelsen, for example, who did very well in Poland, but it's taken him time, hasn't it, to adapt to the Rally 1 car. I know Sesks didn't have to adapt to didn't have to kind of worry about hybrid deployment and things, but it just shows, doesn't it? And then you've got Munster in a Puma as well. He's improved in some respects, but I think the time it's taken him comparative to Sesks is telling, isn't it, in a way? It makes you wonder, are we going to see a Sesks promotion in the near future? So I think that was really interesting. Let's move on to the weird stuff, shall we? And let's start with Hyundai. Now, the Hyundai situation is a strange one, isn't it? So, Thierry Neuville, championship leader, don't forget, was supposed to be doing a warm-up event this weekend, and his entry for that has been pulled. The team haven't spoken too much about why, but I've talked a bit about priorities and things. And basically, Oitanek crashed in Estonia doing his warm-up and obviously doing his home event. Goodwood Festival of Speed in the UK is this weekend, and Danny Sordo is there doing demo runs. And it suggests that with those two things happening, and the need to rebuild Tank's car or build a car for Tanak, that the team don't have the resource to then allow Neuville to do this warm-up event. That seems slightly strange to me. If this was M Sport, I think that would be expected. They have limited resources by comparison, and you would kind of think, okay, fair enough. Smaller team, it's not going to happen. I get it. For Hyundai to be in that position to not be able to run a demo car at Goodwood and have to pull Neuville's entry because of this whole Tanak situation, that strikes me as a bit odd. If I was Neuville, I would be pretty upset by that. He is, as I said, the championship leader, and for me should be the priority. I think Tanak is doing better now, but he is not the main championship contender. So I think for me, if I was in Neuville's position, I would certainly be upset that I wasn't being prioritised, and that my pre-event preparations for what is a really important set of rallies for the team and for me as a driver, I think I'd be a bit annoyed by that. So that, to me, for a works team with massive budget, that seems a bit weird, doesn't it? And then on the flip side of that, we've got Hyundai kind of not perhaps doing enough preparation. And then if you flip the other way to Toyota, we've got a team that seems to be going kind of all in right now. I talked about this in the latest issue of Rally Sport News, which you can download and read by clicking on the link in my bio on Instagram, even though it's not in the link in my bio on Instagram, it's in a link in my highlights on Instagram is what I meant to say, and it's linked on X and various other places. Strange, isn't it, that Toyota are kind of, I'm not going to say they're panicking, but they seem to have just switched approach a bit, and they're chucking a lot of resources at things right now. We've got a surprising, let's say, entry in Finland. So we have 5 Rally 1 Yaris's, Yarai, if you will, for that event. It's a bit of a shock to see Sébastien Ogier doing that rally. Not necessarily an event you'd expect a retiree, that's an awful word to use about Ogier, isn't it? Not an event you'd expect someone like in his position to be doing. He's doing a lot of rallies this year for a part-timer. I mean, people are talking about him going for the championship. It's possible, but perhaps a bit of a long shot. 5 cars though, so this started. Obviously, we were a bit surprised. I think that Ogier had agreed to do Poland and Latvia. I think that in itself showed intent, with Evans and Katsuta having a difficult season. Rovanperä showing speed, but showing inconsistency in his part-time program. That to me showed that Toyota were like a bit worried about the position of Hyundai and the pace of Hyundai and the consistency of Hyundai in point scoring terms. So that, I think, was significant. The fact that they then decided to knock Sami Pajari's Rally 1 debut back from Latvia to Finland after that had been announced, again, was significant for me, because it showed that was everything must have been in place for Pajari's debut, and then they knocked it back. So I think that was significant, and kind of showed again that there's concern in the Toyota camp about Hyundai and the need to start getting points on the board, especially across these quick rallies. And now, again, we've seen a 5-car lineup, which is unprecedented for Toyota. This is another sign that, for me at least, that they sense the need to take advantage of this. These 3 fast gravel events, Poland, Latvia, Finland, where they should be strongest. Fielding 5 cars. Pajari isn't going to be a major point scorer, But, you know, by putting, you know, Rovanpera at home makes sense, doesn't it? Obviously, you've got Evans and Katsuti, your full timers, but putting OJ in it as well is a security blanket, isn't it? You know, if one of the others, or two of the others, sorry, have a problem, you know, you've still got cars that can score you points. So I think having 4 effectively point scoring Rally 1 cars, unless something major happens and Pyari ends up being a point scorer, that is, for me, that is another significant sign that Toyota are a bit concerned about Hyundai. And obviously Neuville's problems with not being able to do a full, you know, event as a pre-event preparation for Latvia helps them a little bit more in terms of, you know, Neuville will maybe be a little bit on the back foot in Latvia, but it just shows, doesn't it? I think it's weird in a way, as I said at the top, but it's also encouraging. You know, it's more cars for the fans, so that's a good thing. But I think it just shows, doesn't it? It shows the significance of the championship battle this year. Toyota are genuinely concerned about Hyundai and the strength of Hyundai, and they really need to assert them, or they obviously feel that they really need to assert themselves over the next couple of events to narrow that gap. You know, they did narrow the gap in Poland in terms of the Manufacturers' Championship and the Drivers' Championship. And they obviously feel like they need to push now before we get to Greece later in the year, before we go back to some slightly rougher events where, you know, Hyundai have looked really strong. So I think that is fascinating, and it's going to be really interesting to see how it plays out over the next 2 rallies, and whether the strategy pays off, you know, whether this issue with Neuville hurts him, because we could find ourselves after Finland in a position where the Manufacturers' Championship has been reversed. I think there's a very strong possibility of that. And we could even find ourselves in a position where, you know, the Drivers' Championship is much closer, or even Evans could be leading. You know, he has proven that he is quick on fast gravel. We know the car is fast on fast gravel, so we could get to the end of Rally Finland and the championship could have been turned on its head, and it could have been a masterstroke from Toyota, couldn't it? So all very interesting. So yes, I think that's all I wanted to say, really. Just wanted to wrap it on about that a little bit. So we will wrap this video up there. As always, please like, comment, subscribe. As I said right at the very top, there is lots more coming, and now things have settled down a little bit in my life. I want to focus a lot more on content here. So do keep watching and keep an eye out on what's coming soon, and I will see you again in the next video.